My name is Kent Philpott. Now, this is a conversational interview, and we're going to be talking with Roger Hoffman. Welcome, Roger.
Thank you, Kent.
Now, we've been friends a long time, although in the past, I would say maybe 40 years, we haven't seen that much of each other.
Correct.
That's correct. Now, let's find out. Now, how do you spell Hoffman? Have you got one N or two N's at the end of it?
One.
One N.
Two F's, one N.
Two F's, one N. Okay. Roger, now, where were you born?
Well, Graham is west of Dallas.
Okay.
But actually, my folks were from a little town called Slayton, Texas, which is near Lubbock.
Okay.
And really, they were only temporarily in Graham.
Now, there's an old song, "Happiness is Lubbock in my rearview mirror."
That's it. My dad used to say he was glad he was from Texas, as far from Texas as he could get.
All right, Roger. So tell us a little bit about your parents. What's their background?
Well, my mother was the daughter of a preacher. My grandfather on her side was a Southern Baptist preacher.
Okay.
And never really pastored a church, but he helped plant churches.
Oh, he did? Okay.
And so my mom was a preacher's daughter.
Okay.
And she married the bad boy in town.
Oh, she did?
Yeah.
How does that happen? How does the nice little Baptist girl marry the wildest guy in town?
I don't know, but he was. He was a bootlegger. The county they lived in was dry. I don't know if you know about wet and dry counties
Yes,
in
I
Texas.
do.
Well, the county they lived in was dry, and he would bootleg whiskey and beer into the county. He said he had the fastest car in the county because he had to outrun the police.
Okay. So this is your dad?
That's my dad.
You have brothers and sisters?
I'm the oldest of 5 kids. I have 2 younger brothers, 2 younger sisters.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, you're the oldest.
Yep.
Okay. Any idea of where you got the name Roger from?
No.
No. Okay.
My dad just liked it. He heard it. Some country singer named his kid Roger, and he liked the name, so he named me Roger.
Okay.
That's all I know.
All right. Now, so growing up, did you go to church with your mom at the Southern Baptist Church?
I did. Yeah, my mom was always a church-going lady,
Okay.
and my dad was on and off. Sometimes he would go, and then sometimes he wouldn't. And she always made sure that us kids went with her.
Okay. Did you dress up with little suits on and stuff?
We did.
You did?
Yeah.
Did you have to shine your shoes on Sunday morning?
Oh, yes.
What was it like going to a Baptist church in Texas then, in that period?
Well, I don't remember that much about going in Texas. I was 8 years old when we moved to California. So most of my church-going memories they start in California.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, I went I remember going to Sunday school at the First Baptist Church in Slayton, Texas.
Okay.
I remember they had little booths that would hold a teacher and about 6 students, like a square table that had two kids, and the teacher. So it was like a teacher would take 6 students, and we would sit in this little booth and had our Sunday school lessons in front of us, and yeah, it was good.
What took you to California?
My dad was a carpenter in construction, and the work was happening in California, so he came out here for the work.
Okay. And what town did you move to?
First to Antioch, California.
Oh, yeah.
And then later to West Pittsburgh, which was unincorporated area in Contra Costa County.
Right. I know the towns, both of them.
Yep.
Okay. And what high school did you go to?
Well, this is confusing because I went to Pacifica High School, and everybody says, "Oh, I know where Pacifica is." And I said, "No, it was Pacifica High School in West Pittsburgh. Had nothing to do with the town of Pacifica."
Right. And did you do any sports in high school?
I did. Yeah, I competed in wrestling and gymnastics.
Wrestling and just gymnastics. Okay.
Yeah.
You always were kind of a tough guy, Roger.
I was best at math.
Okay.
That was my best subject in high school. but I actually won the English award upon graduation.
Was what?
I got the English award,
Oh, did you?
English Department Award, when I graduated from high school.
Okay. Where'd you go to college?
Chico State.
Chico, I knew that. Chico State, the party school.
Yeah, I went to junior college first. I went to Diablo Valley Junior College for
Diablo
2
Valley,
years,
okay.
then transferred to Chico State.
Okay. And your major was?
English Lit.
Do you have a time when you were converted? Or a lot of times I found people that were in church a lot, they weren't aware of an event. What happened with you?
Well, I've been asked that question before, so I have formulated an answer.
Okay.
Not just for your program, but some time ago I got my head around what happened to me. And having been brought up in church and being read Bible stories from my earliest age, all my heroes were Daniel in the lion's den and David and Goliath and Noah and the ark and all those stories that were read to me as children's stories initially.
Sure.
And so I always did believe. So I never went from unbelief to belief. But there came a time when I was about, I think I was 8 years old, when I took ownership. This is the way I explain it. Because I always believed, but I remember sitting in a service. It was the end of the service, and the pastor was giving the invitation, like happened at the end of every service in the Baptist church, either for conversion or church membership. And the pastor was inviting people that had never been baptized to be baptized. And my cousin, a girl cousin, who was a year older than me, was sitting in the row in front of me, and she sort of turned around over the pew like this and looked at me behind her and said, "Roger, you've never been baptized, have you?" And I looked at her and I said, "No, I haven't." And she said, "Well, why don't you?" And in that moment I thought, why don't I? I knew I believed. I had just never done anything about it. So I thought, yes, I'm going to do this. And I walked up and said I wanted to be baptized. They prayed with me, kind of a prayer of, to become a Christian, although I really was already one in a sense. But I was taking ownership. I knew what I was doing, and I knew that I needed to be baptized. And so from that moment forward, I was like, I'm making it mine.
Baptism's a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this took place when you're 8 years old.
Yeah.
You're now in California.
Yes.
And how did the kids at school react to you? Did you get much of a pushback, or?
They didn't know.
They didn't know.
Well, I mean, I didn't know how many of those kids went to school, to church, and whether any of my playmates, classmates went to church or not. I didn't know unless they went to my church, and it wasn't an issue at school.
No, not at that age.
No.
In that environment.
I was thinking about it later because I'm in touch with a lot of my high school friends.
Yes.
That on Facebook now that I didn't know were Christians in high school, that now on Facebook it's obvious they're very strong Christians.
Wow.
They're very active in their churches. They're very outspoken on their Facebook feeds about prayer and Jesus and church and things like that. And I go, oh, I didn't even know they were a Christian in high schools. Maybe they were and maybe they weren't. I don't know. Maybe they became Christians since high school. I don't know. But anyway, it wasn't much of an issue.
All right. So you're up at Chico. Now, what did your Christianity look like when you were in college?
I was a strong Christian.
Were you?
Yes, I was a strong Christian. I've always been a strong Christian.
Yeah.
Actually. I'm very thankful for the discipling I got in the Baptist church. I was taught to read my Bible every day, pray every day, and I went to youth camp. I went to Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night, church camp, conferences, youth group, the whole. I was very involved. I was as involved as you could get. And when I got to Diablo Valley Junior College, they elected me as president of the Baptist Union on campus. Then when I got to Chico State, they elected me as president of the Baptist Student Union. And then later I joined InterVarsity at Chico. That's where my real involvement on campus was.
With InterVarsity.
With InterVarsity.
So, did you have girlfriends at Chico?
Tried.
You tried?
No, I was never all that good with the girls. I felt a bit awkward, but I dated. Yeah, I dated.
Sure.
I had a girlfriend on campus for about 8 or 9 months, I would say, till she started talking about marriage, and I bailed.
So that sort of scared you away.
That scared me away. No, the idea of marriage didn't scare me so much. I just didn't want to be married to her.
Okay.
I mean, I don't want to be unkind. She's a nice girl. She just wasn't. She wasn't going to be my wife, though.
Wasn't going to be your wife.
No.
Okay. When you were at Chico, did you have an idea of what you wanted to do in the future?
Well, that's an interesting question, because that's a yes and no. When I was 16, I went to a Southern Baptist Missions Conference at their big conference ground in Glorieta, New Mexico. And it was a student conference, and there were about 2,000 plus students there from all over the southern and western United States. And I was attending the conference. They had missionary speakers every night. And then towards the end of the week-long conference, one of the speakers, and I don't remember which one he was, I don't remember his name, but he said something along the lines of, it would really surprise me. He says, I kind of know the way the Lord works. And with 2,000 plus students here, it would really surprise me if God was not dealing with some of you about going into full-time Christian ministry, that you have a call on your life for full-time Christian work, whether it be missionary, pastor, youth leader, something. But God has a way in a group this size of calling some of you to full-time Christian work. He said, if you feel like God's calling you to full-time Christian work, I want you to come forward. Well, I didn't go forward. So then they prayed with those that did go forward. I would say probably 50 or 60 people out of the 2,000 went forward. And so they prayed with them, then dismissed everybody. Well, they dismissed everybody, and they started to file out, and pretty soon the hall was empty, except there was about a half a dozen of us left, still in our seats. And I was one of them, and I was sitting in my seat, and I could not for the life of me get up and walk out. And I knew God was dealing with me. It wasn't in specifics. I didn't know exactly what he was dealing with me about, but he was dealing with me. And I just couldn't get up and walk out. So I sat there, and after about 5 minutes, one of the counselors who had prayed with the others before they dismissed him approached me and said, "Can you tell me what's going on?" So I told him I felt like the Lord was calling me into full-time Christian work, but I didn't know what that was. I couldn't define that. And but I kept that in mind all these years. I really feel like my call in the ministry was at that moment. Mm-hmm. But I didn't know what to do with that. So as I went into college then, because I was only 16 then, I still had my senior year to go, and then college. And so I didn't know. So what I did was I just prepared to be a high school teacher. So I thought I would be a high school English teacher and coach sports because I love sports. And like I said, I'd competed in wrestling, competed in gymnastics. I even competed in gymnastics at Chico State, so I competed at the college level as well. So I loved the sport, loved both sports. And so I thought, well, I'll be a high school English teacher and coach sports. So I got my degree in English. Then I stuck around for another year to get my credential, which I didn't get. I was one class short of getting my credential. And I never did get it because during that year, while I was getting prepared for my teaching credential, the Lord took me back and said, well, actually, I don't want you to teach high school. I want you to go to seminary. And so
Now, didn't he talk to you? You know, would you had the sense of that?
I had the sense of that. Yeah,
I always like to make.
I'm using that
I
terminology.
know.
He spoke to my heart,
Okay.
put it that way. He spoke to my heart, reminded me of those things, renewed my sense of calling.
Okay. So you went to seminary.
Yeah, Golden Gate.
And
Where I
what
met
year
you.
did you start there?
71.
71.
I graduated from Chico with my degree in 70. Then that next year, towards my credential, the summer of 71, I got out of Chico, left for seminary.
And Golden Gate Baptist Theological Seminary, no more.
No more.
No more. It's always sad.
It is a bit sad. Beautiful campus.
Oh, I love it. I'm involved there a little bit with the university, all of it. But and lived there on the campus myself. You lived in the dorm.
I did.
You did. So you moved there in 71. I was doing a THM then.
That's right.
And that's where we met on the campus.
I remember the moment we met.
I do too. Tell me about what your remembrance is, Roger.
Well, I was sitting in the cafeteria, lunchtime, and living in the single men's dorm. I ate all my meals in the cafeteria, so I was there eating with some friends, one of whom was Bob Heimers.
Bob Heimers.
And I remember I was sitting facing where people come in. So I had my back to the food service area, and I was facing the outside and the entry door. And Bob was sitting across from me from the table, and there might have been one or two others come in. And I think Bob must have heard your voice, because I think you came into the cafeteria maybe with someone else, and you were talking, and I think he must have recognized your voice, because he turned around and saw you, and then he looked at me and said, "Oh, Roger, here's a guy you've got to meet." So that's what he said. He said, "Roger, here's a guy you've got to meet. Kent Philpott, you'll really love him. He's good guy," or whatever he said. I don't know exactly what he said. But, and then he called you over and introduced us.
And that was a big deal for myself and for our ministry. We were part of the Jesus People movement.
Yep.
And at that point in 71, we had Christian houses, and a lot going on. And your good friend was Mike Riley.
That's right.
And so I got to know you, Mike, and Bob Heimers. And you got involved in our ministry. Do you remember anything about the very early days?
Oh, yeah. We had, as students, we had to be involved in ministry. We couldn't just cloister ourselves at seminary and just do academics all the, we had to, along with our studies, we had to actually get involved in ministry somewhere. So I had searched around. I'd been involved in a couple of churches briefly, for a month or two, trying different churches out in different situations. Nothing quite fit me, I didn't think. But after I met you, I started going to some of your meetings, just the general meetings that you had when you would gather your people involved in your ministry together. And I remember one of them was up in Petaluma. You used to meet in a church in Petaluma. I don't remember which church.
That's right, I remember.
Yeah, and so I got involved there. I liked the energy, the vision, everything about it. And then, actually, we came to the end of that school year, and you began to speak to me and Mike about opening a house, which we did, Elam House. But Elam House wasn't ready yet. There was, John Newton owned the house, and he was going to make it available, but he had to go. He was on his way to Elam Bible College in New York, and he was still at the house, so the house wasn't available yet.
Now this is in Mill Valley.
That's in Mill Valley.
On Ethel.
On Ethel Avenue, 540 Ethel.
540 Ethel. I've tried to remember which house. I'm going to be looking for that tomorrow.
No, Ethel. No, that's the Christian house that Abe and I opened after we were married. Was 540 Ethel.
Oh, is that okay?
No, this was on Florence, up above Old Mill Park.
Okay.
You go through Old Mill Park and then wind your way up the hill.
Okay.
It was on Florence.
Okay.
I don't remember the address.
Okay, but then I do remember the house on Ethel.
So Mike and I opened a men's house on Florence Avenue. But in the interim, while we were waiting for that house to become available, I lived at Thyatira.
You were at Thyatira?
Yeah, for about 2 months.
In Petaluma?
In Petaluma.
Our Thyatira Ranch. Oh, that was what a place.
Had been a Christmas tree farm. They weren't really doing that anymore.
No. We were baptizing people in the swimming pool.
Yeah. And Dr. Kenny Sanders was there, and Cliff Silliman, and some others.
Yeah.
So when I became their primary Bible study leader for the 2 months I was there.
Sure.
Being a seminary student. And there were probably about 15, 16 of us there, I think, at the time.
Okay.
Something like that.
Mm-hmm. I remember building a parsonage on the grounds of Thyatira for Kenny
Yeah, that
Sanders.
was after I left.
That was after you left. Oh, yeah, that was 76, 77, 78 in that area.
Yeah, that would have been the summer of 72.
Okay.
For about 2 months, I stayed
Right,
there.
okay. And you came back then to Marin from Sonoma.
I did. We opened the house on Florence in Mill Valley, but I dropped out of seminary for a year.
I don't remember that, Roger.
Yeah, I dropped out for a year because I had gone straight from high school to college. It took me 5 years to get my BA, and then another year towards my credentials. So I'd been going to college for 6 years. Went straight from high school to 6 years of college, and then straight to seminary with no real break except summer.
You needed a break.
My heart was not in it, and it was showing in my grades. I thought, I'm just tired of it.
We will edit that. Notice the time. I got it. Sorry, couldn't help it. Okay, no problem. We just edit that. And so you dropped out for a year.
Yep, to do the Christian house, and that's the summer we started Open Door.
That's when Open Door started.
Yeah, August of 72.
Right. There's a little controversy that surrounds the Church Open Door, which we will not get into.
Why not?
Well, anyway, it was a very interesting time, and it was just about the time when the Jesus movement was ending in Marin County. As I look back and with others, it ended in Marin County. It had started earlier, 67, 72 to 75. The dates vary. The dates vary is when we began to see the change. But now, as a good Southern Baptist young man, you encountered charismatic Christianity.
I did.
You did. Well, come on, tell us about that, Roger. You don't have to start speaking in tongues right now or anything, but
I can if you want me to. Well, when I was in junior college, I was going to my local church there in Pittsburgh. And there was a young lady. Now, let's see. Yeah, it would have been my first year in junior college. So I was just out of high school. She was about probably 5 years older than me. And she would come to the evening service. And then the moment our service was over, she didn't stick around. She was out in her car and gone. It was obvious she was headed somewhere, with real intent. So I cornered her after the service and said, where are you in such a hurry to get to? And she said, there's this Pentecostal church in Concord that's experiencing revival, and their service goes about 2.5 hours long. Ours, as a Southern Baptist church, was no more than an hour, for sure, especially on Sunday night. So she could get in. She said, I can come to our church for our service, and then I get there and still get in on the singing. They're still singing when I get there, and then I get to hear the sermon and everything. I said, well, can I go with you sometime? She said, sure. And so on the way there, she said, now, this is a Pentecostal church, don't you? I said, yeah, I know. She said, well, it's going to be different, I said, I know. And she said, and so she started kind of briefing me about what I might see there and encounter there. And sure enough, there was some prophecy and there were testimonies and singing.
Exuberant witness. And
yeah.
Celebration.
Oh, yeah. People jumping up and down and all kinds of good stuff. And so this started me on a journey of really looking into these things. Well, interestingly enough, my grandmother, my mother's mother, the one who, by this time my grandfather had passed away, but my grandmother, she'd been a lifelong Southern Baptist, but she wasn't very denominational about it. I mean, she was a very committed Christian, but kind of didn't matter to her whether she was Baptist or not Baptist. And so I was looking at these passages about the gifts of the Spirit and all of that sort of thing, and prophecy, in 1 Corinthians 12. And I was looking at and I said, well, grandmother, what about these? And she said, what about this stuff, And she said, well, it's in the Bible, isn't it?
Roger, we're going to have to stop there.
Okay.
Have to stop. We're going to pick up there in a minute for the next program. So this is the end of our first interview with Roger Hoffman. So be looking for the second part of our interview with Roger Hoffman on why we are Christians. So long.